Hey BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg. I'm so glad you could join me today. It's been a minute since we've done an Osprey New Military History Haul, and boy, do we have a ton of new titles and a wide range of military history topics, wars, eras, strategy, campaigns. Anyway, I've got a full two stacks over here. So I thought I would make an Osprey spotlight because these are all from Osprey. One of my favorites, along with Casemate. They really get hardcore into just the military, logistical stuff. It gets into tactics. They take a deep dive, and if you nerd out on stuff like that, like I do, then it's right up your alley. So, without further ado, this is a book that I've recently read and reviewed, and I very much enjoyed it. It's kind of along the lines of a book that came out a few years ago. I believe it's called Scars of Independence, but it talks about the existential violence of the American Revolution. And this new book is War Without Mercy: Liberty or Death in the American Revolution by Mark Edward Lender and James Kirby Martin. This book is it out now? It's coming out this month. I don't have the exact date in this book, but anyway, and I do believe I have a finished copy that was sent to me. So thank you, Robin at Bloomsbury Publishing, which distributes the Osprey titles. What I liked, it really catches you from the beginning in the preface, and I'll just read a couple of sentences here. This is a book about a cruel and ruthless war, a war without mercy, in which those caught up in it believed they had nothing to lose by fighting without regard for the rules of so-called civilized warfare. And they use the lens of existential warfare and kind of ground their analysis of the violence through that lens. And actually, it's not a chronological study, which I found interesting. It took a more thematic approach in that each chapter looked at a different outside of chapter 1, which I found very, very intriguing, which was about just war, or in this case, the Latin was jus in bello, which means fighting justly. And the authors look at fighting justly in the context of Enlightenment thinking, but also taking all the way back to the earliest times. But they do quote a lot of Grotius, Vattel, and I think my Liberty Fund books, I do have that book by Hugo Grotius, who wrote is it called The Law of Nations? Anyway, let me just say I love this book, and I love the bibliography, because I'm going to try to pick up a couple of these that they cited. It was fascinating. I really enjoyed it, and this is again, it's an Osprey title. This is very approachable for people who are not looking for in-depth campaigns and this unit went this way and that way. It's not that it's an overarching story. It's not super into detail. So this one is, I think, really meant for a more wide readership, and I was happy to review it. And anyway, and so keep an eye on my social media. I'm going to be posting a link to it, the link to the review, in the next few days. But so I'll just give you a quick rundown here. The Revolutionary War was fought by those caught up in the belief that they had nothing to lose by fighting without regard for the rules of so-called civilized warfare, which is what I just read from the preface. The clarion call to arms, liberty or death, was far more than just rhetoric. At its grimmest level, it was a conflict in which military restraint was more the exception than the rule, a struggle in which combatants believed their very existence was in question. It was war with an expectation and acceptance of ferocity and brutality, anything to avoid defeat. A number of able historians have concluded that United States founding struggle reached a level of ferocity few Americans now associate with the movement for independence. However, these studies have described what happened without looking in detail at why the conflict took so violent a turn. Written by two esteemed Revolutionary War historians, War Without Mercy does exactly that. Based on years of research and enlivened by little-known primary sources, and that's the key. That's one of the treasures of this book. This is an intriguing and fresh look at a bloody period of history we thought we knew. So I highly recommend War Without Mercy by Mark Edward Lender and James Kirby Martin. It's not a long read. They get to it pretty quickly outside of bibliography and notes, which were very helpful. It's a little over 215 pages, but really loved it. All right, now we're going to move on to some books that I think we've seen on this channel before, but I'm going to show you there. These three are available now and very, very elegant, very beautifully designed. I really like the size of these trade paperback editions. I have these, I believe, in hardcover, but thank you for sending me the paper ones as well. I might have to decide on whether I want to keep the hardcovers or stick with these guys, but they're beautiful. They're nice little beautiful trade paperbacks. We've got 1217, The Battles That Saved England by Catherine Hanley. I think I might have that book on the shelf behind me, actually. I have a lot of bookcases in this house, upstairs and downstairs, so you never know which way is which. This book is, let's see here, 150 years after the Norman conquest of 1066 and the final months of King John's terrible reign, a second invasion of England took place. A French prince was welcomed and proclaimed King Louis I of England by a cheering throng in the streets of London. Drawing on original medieval sources, 1217 is the fascinating history of that French invasion and the bloody war which followed, a war that is all but forgotten, yet changed the course of English history beyond recognition. Catherine Hanley expertly navigates medieval siege warfare, royal politics, and fighting at sea to bring this remarkable period of English history to life. And I love the fact that it was a woman that wrote this, because I tell you what, in military history, it's pretty rare. So I love supporting my fellow ladies who are out there writing some fantastic military history. So 1217, out now in paperback. Check it out, from Osprey. The next one we have in this beautiful edition is Agincourt, Battle of the Scarred King, by Michael Livingston. Look at Dan Snow is blurbing it, and with a foreword by Bernard Cornwell, whom I love for my Saxon tales. Uhtred, the Uhtred stories, love those. But I love the size of this book. It's just so compact. Agincourt is one of the most famous battles in English history, numbering among the handful of conflicts whose names are immediately recognized around the world. In this groundbreaking study, medieval historian Michael Livingston draws upon original sources to challenge entrenched assumptions and even contest the site of the battlefield itself. So I'm happy to have that one as well. Then we have Battle for the Island Kingdom, Vikings, Anglo-Saxons, and Normans, 1000 to 1066, by Don Hallway, who also wrote The Last Viking, which I believe is about King Alfred, I think. No, it wasn't, not King Alfred. It was about, oh, I know it. Oh, it's going to kill me. But anyway, yes, King Harold Hardrada. I knew the last name was like something like that, Hardrada, something strange. Anyway, this one, also just a beautiful trade paperback, is a rich history of the violent 6 decades before the seismic Battle of Hastings determined England's fate in 1066. So, yeah, I just thought I'd show you guys this in case you wanted to check these out, your local bookstore, or see if your library can order them. But super fun sized paperbacks. All right. Oh, let me go back to this one, because I've had this in my pile and I've been meaning to make this video. But another book I am super excited to read because it is written by a woman academic, and I hope she writes more. This looks fantastic. This is Jungle Commandos, The Battle for Arakan, Burma, 1945, by Lucy Betteridge Dyson. Again, these are all from Osprey. What do we hear? Let's get into. Oh, I have my. Oh, this is great because now I have my club sheet I can read from instead. Let's see. Drawing on unpublished first-hand accounts. This is a gripping history of the experiences of the Commandos and their unsung allies in one of the bloodiest battles of the Burma campaign. Following the battles of Kohima and Impal in mid-1944, the tide was turning against the Imperial Japanese Army. By the end of that fateful year, the Allies were preparing to launch an offensive in the Arakan region of Burma to deliver a knockout blow to the increasingly desperate Japanese 28th Army. This fascinating new history details the actions of 3rd Commando Brigade, who would spearhead this attack in a series of daring amphibious landings into the depths of the Burmese jungle, culminating in the brutal fight for Hill 170. Despite being the only commando brigade to serve in the Far East, their story has never before been told in detail. With access to previously unseen primary sources, this book is the story of the men who volunteered for a fight against a fearless enemy, 5,000 miles away from home, in one of the most unforgiving environments in the world. Thrown into combat with limited jungle training and scant resources, it would be a baptism of fire, but the Commandos, alongside the brave men of the Indian and West African divisions of 15th Corps, would inflict a terrible defeat on an enemy once thought to be unbeatable. Listen to this, written by a granddaughter of a commando veteran who fought at Arakan. This new book shines a light on a largely forgotten yet crucial battle of World War II. So, I'm so happy to read this. A granddaughter of a commando veteran. It doesn't get much better than that. Look at that. So I'm looking forward to digging into this one because, again, I like to see if I can, notice the differences between like a male historian and a female one, and just in the way they write. Is there more, I don't know, just ways of telling the story? Is there more focus on human, like personal details, or psychology, and perhaps there is completely no different, but men and women are different, so I don't know why sometimes their writing might be kind of different. But anyway, that's just me. I'm just wondering. It's got some good photos and stuff, but yeah, definitely gonna be putting this on the bedside table very soon. Jungle Commandos. I think this is out. This is out right now. Yeah, just came out October 7th, so last week. Fabulous. Let's see, is this another book that came out recently? I don't have a pub sheet, but we'll just get right into it. This is called Nations in Arms, 5 Armies That Made Europe, by Barney White Spunner. 5 Armies That Made Europe. So let me see. Let's get in here. From the Roman army of Constantine the Great to the U.S. Army of the Second World War, Barney White Spunner explores 5 armies that changed the face of Europe. Let me see if I can find some more details in this one. All right. Here we go here. This new study focuses on 5 historical armies that were successfully restructured and changed the face of Europe. The 4th century Roman army of Constantine the Great, the 15th century Ottoman army of Sultan Mehmet II, Cromwell's New Model army during the English Civil War, the Prussian army of the Napoleonic Wars, and then, of course, the U.S. Army of World War II. Each one was developed in reaction to external and internal challenges, both in terms of how their forces were organized on the field of battle and also in the wider sense of how they related to the nation itself. That's fascinating. Nations in Arms. Yeah, I like it. I like how each chapter is just its own thing. It's not a chronological, it jumps around. So if I wanted to just read a chapter on, say, like the Ottoman army of Mehmet II, I could probably do that. And then maybe towards the end, it'll kind of bridge it all together in the epilogue. But anyway, yeah, it's right up my alley. I love these type of books. So another one that's, I think it's out right now from Osprey. Check it out. All right, we're going to move into, oh, I do have the, there's my heart. I was showing you the arc, but that is the beautiful finished copy of War Without Mercy. Again, I'm going to plug this book because I really, really enjoy it. I learned a lot. My review will cover some of that, some of those points, but I mean, it took me all of 2 days to read it. It was fantastic. So yeah, that's the beautiful finished copy of War Without Mercy. Let's go over to this one because I just realized I showed you this book by Catherine Hanley, 1217, and her most recent book, and I have this one in hardcover from Osprey, is Nemesis, Medieval England's Greatest Enemy. Let's see what we got going on here. Oh, I do have a pub sheet. Okay. I'll hold this book up for you so you can take a look at it. Philip II ruled France with an iron fist for over 40 years, expanding its borders and increasing its power. For his entire reign, his counterpart on the English throne was a member of the Plantagenet dynasty, and Philip took on them all. Henry II, Richard the Lionheart, John, and Henry III. And yet we know so little about medieval England's greatest enemy. Historian Catherine Hanley, author of the critically acclaimed 1217, which I just showed you, redresses this imbalance, bringing Philip out of the shadows and this fascinating new history. Delving into French medieval archives, Nemesis explores Philip's motives for attacking England, and in doing so, we learn not only about him, but discover so much more about England's most colorful and controversial of rulers, the Plantagenets. When Philip first succeeded to the throne in 1180, Henry II of England, thanks to his Angevin and Norman ancestry, as well as his wife's inheritance of Aquitaine, ruled more of France than Philip himself. By the end of Philip's reign in 1223, the pendulum of power had swung the other way. Nemesis reveals how Philip exploited the constant familiar squabbles of the Plantagenets to secure his grip on France. His wily political maneuvering combined with a mastery of the medieval battlefield, turning France into a powerhouse of Europe. Fabulous. Yeah, so that sounds delicious. I haven't read very much about like the Plantagenets and in this kind of war of like French royal history, but I know that Catherine Hanley, from what I've read already of 1217, is a writer that you can just dive right in. I really enjoy her writing. So again, yay, women historians and female, military historians as well as just general historians. So 2 great books by Catherine Hanley, available right now. And now we're going to move into my last 2 big hardcovers, and then I'm going to show you these guys right here. You know what I'm talking about. The series, the skinny series books that are so much fun from Osprey. And we're going to kind of try to blaze through those because there's a lot of them. I apologize for the dust floating around. I don't know what's going on. It's a pretty nice day here. 68 degrees out. Got the windows open. All right. Oh, I've got several books by this gentleman and another great writer. I think a British writer, and I have a pub sheet, so yay. So now we're going to go to World War II history, and this is Rhineland, Hitler's Last Defense, 1944 to 45, and this is Anthony Tucker Jones, don't you know. This is a dramatic retelling of the desperate battle of the Rhineland during World War II from the German perspective, which is so important to have not just the usual suspects. You got to read history from different viewpoints. The Rhineland was where Adolf Hitler sowed the seeds for the Second World War when he remilitarized it in breach of the Treaty of Versailles in 1936, and by late 1944, the Rhine provided the last major obstacle to the advancing Allied armies that were threatening the fatherland itself. In this new history of this vital campaign, respected military historian Anthony Tucker Jones describes the race against time as the Germans fought to stave off the inevitable. It was essential that the Germans held the West Bank in order to protect the Rhine crossings at Cologne, Bonn, Koblenz, and Remagen. But Hitler was intent on counterattacking in the Ardennes in the winter of 1944, and this meant there was little left to bolster the defenses of the Rhine. Rhineland details the course of this desperate defense, describing the buildup of forces and operational plans, before going on to tell the story of the campaign from the point of view of the forces involved, from the ordinary German soldier through to the high command. Wow. And this book came out October 7th, so it's available now. Oh, got a foreword by Nigel Hamilton. Wow. And he's the authorized biographer of Montgomery, so that's pretty spiffy. All right. This will be a good read. It's about 288 pages. It's not bad. Not bad at all. But yeah, I've got several of his books. Another very diligent and really comprehensive writer. I like him. Okay, so, and as we move along, another guy I really enjoy. And he just keeps cranking them out, man. He keeps cranking them, and I love it. I love it. I've got a whole like shelf in downstairs in the living room. Some like my top shelf. Got about 4 or 5 of his books, and they're fairly recent ones. And here's his last book, which is just fully detailed, big and beefy, and I don't know how this guy does it. It's Preet Buttar. This is the guy right now, guys. Preet Buttar, the Red Army, and this is called Into the Reich. The Red Army's advance to the Oder in 1945. Look at that. I'm telling you, he just keeps cranking them out. Yeah, the last 4, I have these, and I feel like they've all come out very quickly within the last 2 years. I don't know. I mean, he is just cranking them. Okay, so let's get into what this one's about. Into the Reich, baby. Okay, I got to make sure my framing is okay. In January 1945, the Red Army launched a powerful offensive across the Vistula River to drive the Wehrmacht back across Poland and into Germany, with the intention of securing a start line for a future operation that would ultimately result in the capture of Berlin and the end of the war. The defeat of German forces along the Vistula line was an important prerequisite for an assault on Berlin, but, as Preet Buttar expertly reveals, there were other issues at play. Stalin was determined to push the boundaries of the Soviet Union further west, restoring land lost by the Tsars and securing vast industrial and mineral wealth. While negotiations took place between the Allied powers regarding the future fate of Poland, the Red Army burst through German lines and raced into Poland, liberating Auschwitz, even as the Germans drove concentration camp inmates onto frozen roads in a series of death marches, because Nazis. Am I right? Yeah. The Wehrmacht staged a desperate fight back with, this is written a little weird, the Wehrmacht staged a desperate fight back with their last major armored offensive on the Eastern Front. Launched in February 1945 from the German-Polish border, it did force a halt to the Soviet forces before the rush to Berlin. Written by a historian at the height of his powers, this is the definitive account of the strategic goals, both military and political, of Stalin, his generals, and their armies as they raced into the Reich, and of the German forces who stood in the way. Yes, let me just read. I got to read this little bit about Preet. He is a retired doctor who has written extensively extensively is no joke, on the Eastern Front in both World Wars. I also have a couple of his books on World War I and the Eastern Front. Fascinating. His books have been translated into Polish, Lithuanian, Estonian, Finnish, Italian, Hungarian, and Chinese. And he lives in Scotland, in Kirkcudbright. Isn't that great? Anyway, this is out right now. This came out in September, actually. But I am really thrilled to have this one because Preet Bhutar. That's all I got to say. I am going to, one of these days, maybe when I retire, I'm going to do a whole like video series on each of his books because he's one of those greats that you just like to share with the world. Okay, so these are some of the paperback and hardcovers that are new from Osprey right now. And now we're going to get into these guys right here. I hope you're ready. Let me just take a little sip. How you doing out there, everybody? I forgot to ask you that. Hope all is well in your neck of the woods, wherever you're coming from, wherever you're viewing. I hope you're well. I do. We live in some crazy ass times. So take care of yourselves out there. And take care of each other. All right. I've done these Osprey videos many a time. I think I might create a playlist on my channel actually and just start to organize all my Osprey videos, because if you follow them and you like these series of books that they put out, you might want to see all the ones I've shown before. Maybe there's one that you've missed in your collection. So I might do that. I think I might create a playlist for these videos. All right. So let's start with the one I have the biggest chunk of right now. And this is the series known as Campaign. They always have, let me get back here, the red borders, and they'll always say Campaign and then the number. And each book is given a different number. I just think just in the order of its publication. It doesn't have anything to do with like different wars are not grouped in the same campaign numbers. But anyway, these have come in over the last, I'm going to say last couple of months. So let me catch up on these in no particular order. We've got campaign number 80. Tobruk, 1941, Rommel's Opening Move by John Latimer. Let's see here. In March 1941, with Wavell's British troops having routed the Italians from Cyrenaica, General Erwin Rommel arrived in Tripoli to command the Dutch Africa Corps, or Deutsches Africa Corps. Over the next 2 years, the Africa Corps and its commander would become legendary. In his first offensive, Rommel swept across the desert, driving the British back to the Egyptian frontier and capturing much of the 2nd Armored Division in the process. One thorn remained in his side. The vital port of Tobruk continued to resist. If it could hold out, Rommel's offensive might be halted. Wavell instructed General Morshead and his garrison of 30,000 determined Australians to hold firm at all costs. The scene was set for one of the epic struggles of the Desert War. And just really quickly, I won't do this for every book because we've got a lot to get through here, but they are just, I love these for just a quick read and also just so visual. You know, I love the maps, and these are the things that really help me to see a battlefield. And of course, I love the artwork. You always got the artwork in the center. Both pages, centerfold. Well, you get a couple of them too. I love it. Lots of maps, lots of photographs. These are just fantastic. Just, one-stop shop. If you just want a quick and dirty synopsis, these Osprey campaign ones they're just excellent. All right, so there's that one. Put these over here. The next one I have, again in no particular order, is Constantinople, 1453, the end of Byzantium. This is campaign number 78. And this is by, is it David? Yeah, David Nicole, illustrated by Krista Hook. These usually range anywhere between 80 and 96 pages. Always include a chronology at the end, further reading, suggestions, of course, maps, everything you can think of. Look at this. Love it. Ancient history all the way up to modern wars. So visual. Just so pleasing to look at. So much color. I love these. So this title details the epic 4-month siege of the city of Constantinople, last vestige of the once mighty Roman and Byzantine empires. Mehmet the Conqueror led an army of 80,000 men with a massive siege train against the city. Defending were a mere 10,000 men under the Emperor Constantine XI. The Turkish artillery battered the ancient city walls mercilessly, leveling a large section. A gallant defense held off the massive Turkish assault for several hours. Refusing appeals to flee, Constantine returned to the breaches and fought until overwhelmed and killed. Thus died the last emperor of the Byzantines, and with him his once glorious empire. So yeah, Campaign 78. Yeah, so maybe some of these are, I think I tried to organize these. Yeah, we're going to do this one. Okay. Perfect. I think, I'm not sure when those came in, but anyway, now we're moving on back to World War II. We're going to go to campaign number 417, and this is Second Cert, or Second Sûreté, 1942, The Desperate Battle to Relieve Malta, by Angus Constam, illustrated by Adam Tooby. Excuse me. I don't know when I've last sneezed on camera before. Wowza. I love the artwork. This is just great artwork. Come on. You gotta love this stuff. Look at that, like a focus, such detail. This is great. Yeah, like this volume is only 92 pages, but let's read this. Malta was the key to the hard-fought naval campaign being waged in the Mediterranean, vital in interrupting the Axis supply lines between Italy and North Africa. Struggling under a sustained bombing campaign by the Luftwaffe and Regia Aeronautica, the island depended on convoys of supplies to survive. In December 1941, an Allied convoy from the east was part of an inconclusive clash with the Italians at the First Battle of Sirte. I don't know how to pronounce it. In late March 1942, the situation escalated. The decisive clash came on the afternoon of March 22nd, when British destroyers launched a series of torpedo attacks against Italian ships. At dawn, Axis aircraft appeared and a series of intense air attacks followed. Although 3 of the convoy's 4 ships reached Malta, they were sunk days later. Still, it was enough to buy Malta the time it needed to remain in the fight. So that is Campaign 417 from Osprey. I'm going in a little bit more numerical order at least, but this is Campaign 418, and this is Yugoslavia, 1941 to 44, Anti-Partisan Operations by Pier Paolo Battistelli. Pier Paolo Battistelli, illustrated by Johnny Shumati, who is a frequent artist for these slim Osprey guides. I really like Johnny Shumati's artwork. It's fantastic. That's on the cover. But we got other artwork in here as well. Wow. I've got so much to get through. Okay, so let me try to go a little bit faster here. Let me just read it. Following the Axis invasion and occupation of Yugoslavia in April 1941, a brutal insurgency based both on ethnic and political affiliations broke out in the German and Italian occupied areas. The result was a protracted multi-partite struggle. The key forces opposing the Axis occupation were Tito's communist partisans and, initially, Draza Mikhailovic's royalist Chetniks. with Allied allegiances shifting over time. Widespread ethnic cleansing and ideological warfare were waged by the occupiers and their internal allies under the anti-partisan moniker. In 1942, the first of 7 major counterinsurgency operations was carried out by Axis forces. These took place in every part of the country, aiming to annihilate the main core of resistance. I don't know a lot about the Yugoslavian front, so this is going to be a helpful book. I mean, I'm aware of Tito's rise to power there, but yeah, when you get into the partisans and the intra fighting, between the different parties, or it gets messy. It gets messy. So Yugoslavia 1941 to 44 is going to be very helpful for me to get my brain around that. And now we're going to campaign number 419, and this is Manila Bay, 1898, Dawn of an American Empire, by Brian Lane Herder, illustrated by Edward Groult. I haven't seen a book yet on the Manila Bay campaign, so this is going to be intriguing. Lots of good stuff in here, guys. Cuban crisis. All right. In April 1898, the United States and Spain declared war on each other. Led by Commodore George Dewey, the small U.S. Asiatic Squadron departed China and attacked the Spanish Naval Squadron defending Manila Bay on May 1st. Simultaneously, an insurrection under a charismatic young Filipino named Emilio Aguinaldo liberated most of the Philippines on its own and laid siege to Manila. This resulted in 3 warring sides vying for supremacy, with each fixed on their own unique political goals. It goes on to give some more information, but I got to keep moving along. But another stellar entry for the campaign series. Now we're going to go back to English history. Medieval. Let's do it. This is campaign 420, and this is Stoke Field, 1487, the last battle of the Wars of the Roses. Get rid of that glare there. There you go. Last Battle of the Wars of the Roses by Dickon Whitewood, illustrated by Graham Turner, another great artist for Osprey in these books. The Battle of Stoke is popularly considered to be the last battle of the Wars of the Roses. Less than 2 years previously, King Henry VII had been crowned on the battlefield following his victory over Richard III at Bosworth. Despite Henry's efforts to secure his crown against potential rivals, a plot soon emerged against his rule, culminating with the crowning of a Yorkist pretender in Ireland. Launching an invasion of England, the rebels achieved some early success, but failed to secure widespread support for their cause. Moving south, they met the hastily assembled but more numerous army of Henry VII outside the village of East Stoke, 4 miles south of Newark. And I'm just going to kind of flip through here for you. Wonderful maps, calling out the different armor, wonderful artwork. You just can't go wrong with these. Every time I do one of these, I say this: you can't go wrong with these. You can't. You just can't. They're great. They're fantastic. All right. And then the last one in the campaign series I'm going to show you is campaign 421. And this is Sinai, 1916 to 1917, the fight for the Suez Canal, by Stuart Hathaway, illustrated again by Graham Turner. Let's see. The Battle of Romani was fought between Britain's Egyptian Expeditionary Force, also known as the EEF, and the Ottoman Empire's Sinai Expeditionary Force in the Sinai Desert in early August 1916. The Ottoman objective was to disrupt and cut off the Suez Canal, while the EEF needed to protect the canal and the flow of materials that were struggling to keep the war economies of Britain, France, and Italy working. The two sides came to a head on August 4th and 5th. The battle resulted in the defeat of the Ottomans, and the EEF continued to advance to the edge of the desert. With this defeat, not only did the British Empire secure its supply lines, but it was also its first major land victory of the war against the Ottomans. The tide was finally turning in the war between the empires. Ooh, that's a nice big map right there. I'm liking it. That's good stuff. Fabulous. All right. And then we've got a few more left. I'm at 40 minutes. Let's see if we can crank through these. Well, I'm trying to group them by series. So I've got a couple in each and then some standalones. All right. Let's go to Air Campaign. We've got Air Campaign 55, number 55, and this is Kursk, 1943. Air Power in the Eastern Front's Most Pivotal Battle by William E. Heistand. Again, Graham Turner is our artist. I love how each one is designed very specifically, has its very distinctive markers. The air campaigns are like silver of a like an Electra, Lockheed Electra, fuselage. Is really cool. Let's see here. The Battle of Kursk in July 1943 was the last chance for the Luftwaffe to fully support a large-scale offensive on the Eastern Front. It turned, however, into the Soviet Air Force's first success in battling their opponents to a standstill. In this book, Soviet military expert William E. Heistand explains how the complex air war over Kursk played out. With both sides deploying aircraft specifically designed for destroying tanks, massive engagements took place above the clashes of armor. It was a simultaneous struggle to attain air superiority while bringing Stukas, H-129s, and Il-2 Sturmoviks down for repeated low-level attack runs in the face of enemy fighters and anti-aircraft fire. But the campaign also involved strategic bombing behind the front lines, attacking airfields and rail junctions. So these, each book includes battle scenes, bird's eye view, maps, diagrams, and of course just the writer's analysis, expert analysis. So that is Air Campaign 55, and now we have one of the more recent ones released is Air Campaign 56, New Guinea, 1942-43, Halting the Last Japanese Advance by Mark Still and John Rogers, and illustrated by Jim Laurier. Do another flip. Again, I always get the artwork. I would love to frame, have these like print artwork and just, I love these. Okay, so this is a new history of a previously neglected part of the Pacific War, the role of air power in the battles over New Guinea and the waters around it, as the Allies checked and halted Japan's last significant offensives. The first of two books, drawing on Japanese, American, and Australian sources, this volume details operations from February 1942 until April 1943, which saw the Allies stop the last Japanese efforts to expand their faltering empire. So yeah, we're going to have a part 1 and part 2. Great. Looking forward to the follow-up. Love this artwork on the cover. And that is Air Campaign 56. Now let's go to, this is a new one. Oh, I see. Okay, now we're going to go to standalones. Here's another favorite series of mine. It's called Combat. And it's always like one person or one thing against another. And it compares and contrasts. And this is ancient history, and this is great fun. This is Combat number 82. And this is Caesarian Legionary versus Pompeian Legionary, Rome Civil War, 49 to 45 BC by William Horsted. These are great fun. I love these. They have a lot of split screen artwork and just, oodles of maps like the others, commissioned artwork. It's just fantastic. So this one is, let me read this real quick. Triggered by the tension surrounding Julius Caesar's return to Rome from Gaul, the civil war that broke out in 49 BC convulsed the Roman world. Commanders and troops loyal to Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, known as Pompey, confronted those following Caesar in a series of brutal battles across the Mediterranean, from Hispania to Greece. In this book, William Horsted assesses the similarities and differences between the evolving Caesarian and Pompeian armies, which included not only Roman legions, but also auxiliaries and allies from Gaul, Numidia, and elsewhere. And then he covers the major clashes between the two armies at Dyrrhachium, Thapsus, and Munda in Spain. So let's see if I can do. There you go. There's some of that beautiful artwork. Such great stuff. And they smell really good too. I'm a weirdo, I know. Caesarian Legionary versus Pompeian Legionary, one of the combat series most recent release. So, and they got a lot of good stuff coming out too. I saw something on American Revolutionary ones like Hessian soldiers versus American Continentals, I think. Anyway, so there's that. This is one of their newer series, so it's the numbers are really low. I've got most of them actually. I think I might have all of them now. But this is number 12, and this is their Fleet series. A nice dark blue cover, and this is U.S. 7th Fleet, Korea, 1950 to 53, the first Cold War naval campaign, by Corbin Williamson, illustrated by Paul Wright. So as you can see, this one has its own look and feel. They're all blue with an orange border at the top, just for branding purposes, I suppose, and to distinguish them from other items. And these Fleet ones have really, their maps are just designed around naval movements. And so in the fact that it's not your standard kind of land map, you kind of have to really look at it from like almost like a, well, they say bird's eye view. In this case, you can kind of see the longitude. Is it longitude and latitude? Something like that. But anyway, kind of a different type of map. But anyway, let me read this real quick. Fought just 5 years after the U.S. Navy swept into Tokyo Bay, the naval campaign in Korea was a very different war, and one that set the trend for naval warfare for the rest of the century. In this book, Dr. Corbin Williamson, a specialist on the U.S. Navy of the period, explains how a fleet built to fight an uncompromising total war rapidly adapted to a successful Cold War multinational intervention. 7th Fleet's role included blockading enemy ports, escorting convoys, close air support, interdiction, naval gunfire support, and amphibious invasions and evacuations. So this book is a rounded portrait of how 7th Fleet proved the flexibility and importance of sea power in an unexpected theater. So that is Fleet number 12. And then we have Elite, which is about, the Elite series is all about units, military units of varying times, places, armies. And this is Elite number 263. And this is Roman cavalry tactics. Hey, I'll take it. MC Bishop is the author, illustrated by Adam Hook. And this kind of goes into, this goes into some books. In this series, the Elite series, it will cover the history of military forces, artifacts, personalities, and in this case, techniques of warfare. So in this case, it's a technique, the cavalry tactics. Let's see. All right, well, I'm running out of time, so let me just say, look at that. Love it. I love it. Anyway, all about Roman cavalry tactics. 2nd century AD. All right, so I'm going to move on from that. I've got two more. All right, so then we have Duel. The Duel series are the account of machines of war pitted against each other and the combatants who operated them. Step onto the battlefield and immerse yourself in the experience of real historic combat. So this is Duel number 146, and this is the M18 Hellcat versus the Panther Aracourt, 1944, by William E. Heiston. Oh, you just wrote that other one. They kind of write similar books for Osprey. They use a lot of the same authors. So this is all about the tank warfare at Aracourt in 1944. And how they just kind of squared up against each other. You get the drift, right? Yeah, there you go. All right. And then finally we've got a new, well, it's not a new series, but it's called Combat Aircraft. And I just love the look of this. This is one beast of an aircraft, and I just love it. So this is Combat Aircraft 158, and it is B-52 Stratofortress. Units in combat, 1992 to 2025. Look at that guy. Look at that. It's just amazing that anything like that could even be in the air. You know? Entering service in 1955, the B-52H has become an icon of deterrence and the extensive reach of American air power. The aircraft was conceived as a long-range nuclear bomber, but its versatility saw it used as a heavyweight bomb truck in Vietnam and a launcher of standoff air-to-ground missiles during Operation Desert Storm. And then it kind of goes on about what else it's been used for. I know my brother-in-law would love these as well. He's a pilot, and he likes to see a lot of the old World War II aircrafts. Wow, look at this. So good stuff here, guys. So that kind of catches you up on the series that have been coming out lately from Osprey. And a big old stack of hardcovers and paperbacks that are out right now from Osprey. A wonderful military publishing company that, frankly, they deserve more coverage than they get. And I know it's because mostly it's like a lot of these books are written over in the UK or, you know, Eastern Europe, but these are fantastic histories. If military history is your thing. If it's not, then, you know, move along. But if you like military history, you like getting into the dirt and, you know, getting into the nitty-gritty of just logistics, movements, that kind of stuff, you can't go wrong with Osprey titles. So anyway, guys, now I've done it again. Here's another 51-minute video. But hey, it's been a while since I've done an Osprey Spotlight, so let me know which ones appeal to you. And if you have any other recommendations for me, I'm always delighted by unexpected comments that just say, hey, have you read this one? And a lot of times I'm like, I have not even heard of that. I've got smart readers out there, smart viewers who have read a lot more than me, especially in these realms, that are just recommending outstanding stuff. So I just want to thank you again for your smart recommendations out there, everybody. Until next time, drop me a like, give me a subscribe, whatever you do. But keep reading. And I hope you found something here that might tickle your whimsy. So I'll be back real soon with another video here at the History Shelf. Thanks for seeing me. Thanks for joining me. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.